Welcome to Williams, Sergey.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. It is great honour.
I'd like to officially welcome you to our team. Oh, wait, it says card declined. Could you try popping your pin in again?
Certainly.
That's got it. Welcome to Williams.
Could I have receipt, please?
In a minute, but first, cake.
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth, he's Zog.
Hello.
He's Richard.
Hello.
And we are motorists. I don't normally describe myself as a motorist. Are you a motorist?
It's a slightly dated term, isn't
It's
it?
a really dated motorist and motoring.
Do you enjoy motoring, Richard?
My favourite thing.
A motorist wears gloves.
Correct.
There's a string back
Open
gloves.
back.
Probably
Yes.
has a flat cap.
Yes.
But motoring as well. Motoring is a funny word. The more you say it, the weirder it gets. But
But it's got a nice sort of sedentary ring. It suggests it's going to be a pleasurable activity.
Usually near the
Rather-
coast.
Yeah.
pop out for some motoring.
Yes.
My favourite thing, a long time ago, probably at least 10 years ago, there was a story about something to do with cars and, I don't know, car tax on BBC News, and they had Quentin Wilson live down the line from a studio somewhere else, and they captioned him as Quentin Wilson, motoring enthusiast. And the thing is, it was live, and I know Quentin, and I was like, I should text him and tell him, but there's nothing he can do, and also he doesn't know that's how they're captioning him. Not motoring expert, or
Motoring
the fact that he's sort of quite
motoring
renowned
enthusiast.
for knowing about cars and being a talking head about them, but motoring enthusiast.
Yes. Well, we are motoring
Yeah, I think that's-
enthusiasts. What would be the classic motoring car? Would it be an MGB, perhaps?
No, you see, I always think of a motoring car as like some kind of old chitty bang bang type.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
like,
Really?
it's like an Austin 7 or something.
You see, I was
isn't it?
thinking of a
One
Morris Minor, maybe. I was thinking
Oh, that's quite
motoring.
motoring, isn't it? Yeah.
What, okay, so what's the most modern motoring car? How recent can we go back for a motoring car?
Oh, well, now, the Rover 75 is definitely a motoring
It's a
car.
motoring
Okay.
car.
You could go motoring in a Rover 75.
So what's the jam?
I'm not sure you can really sort of go motoring in anything that much more recent. I think
No.
the more recent
That
you
is
get,
almost the cut-off.
You know, you've got too many kind of bells and whistles. It's all too frou-frou. So
Yeah. What's the least motoring car in the world? It's probably like the Lamborghini Huracan Performance or something.
Not motoring, is it?
I don't know. But also, a Ford Cat is not motoring.
No,
it's not.
You wouldn't
no,
go and take a special journey in a Ford Cat. It's a functional
But
item.
that, what was it? Was it the Micra CC? You know,
Yes.
that was a motoring car.
Oh, I
wasn't
don't
it?
know. It was a bloody awful car.
Correct.
I don't know. There are.
Is an Aston Martin a motoring car?
Oh, they're a bit motoring.
a little bit. Yeah, you see, but
we really have to consider that.
well,
didn't we?
okay,
No,
yeah,
but you're right.
But
Yeah,
what it is, I
quite
think
motoring.
it's tradition. It's the fact that there's so much kind of tradition baked into that.
Rolls
Do you know
Royce,
what?
motoring.
I've just thought of a car that I think is actually quite motoring.
Come on.
It's the Bentley Flying Spur.
Motoring.
But only the Flying
Yeah,
Spur.
yeah.
The Continental GT, not so motoring.
No,
Yeah.
no, not
The
motoring.
Flying Spur,
Yeah.
ooh, maximum motoring.
Maximum motoring.
You'd go and do some motoring in that, down to the coast.
So, Richard, you own, 27 cars now, is it?
My Nissan Leaf has gone. That's gone. That was only a short-term lease on that one, so that went. I had it for longer than I was supposed to. I paid for 6 months, and I sort of had
You had
it
it for a couple of years, didn't you?
No, I had it for 8 months because no one from Nissan got in touch. And in the end, I thought it was sort of devil and angel on my shoulder because I was going,
Should I mention
wonder
it?
how long I could get away with this for.
Yeah.
Because it strikes me. I tell a lie. What happened was I got to about the 6 month mark and I thought, well, I better just make the arrangement to get it picked up because, you know, then I'll be able to plan. If they want it next week, then I'll get all my stuff out of it, la-di-la. But if they don't want it for a couple of weeks, that's fine. I'll just keep using it. Emailed the chap who'd sorted out this short lease for me. He said, yes, someone should have been in touch. I'll sort it out. Nothing. So I emailed him again, and he went, oh, sorry, it's no one been in touch. I'm really sorry, I'll chase that. And still nothing. So the following week, I emailed him, and I got an auto-reply. I have left Nissan. And I thought, that's the point at which I thought, now,
I can hang on to this forever.
hang on a minute. And
You're back on the hook there. Before that reply,
Yeah.
you were off the hook.
Well, I'd done the right
Because
thing by going, do
exactly-
you want your car back?
Exactly, you've
That's
done the right
thing.
thing.
I
You've been in
felt
touch,
like-
you said, you want your car back, and nobody had said, okay, give us it back on this date. So, your author, you could hang on to it until somebody asked for it back. As soon as you get that auto-reply that says they left Nissan, you're back on the hook.
I see what you mean.
You
yes.
see? 'Cause
well, I was. So
you
then I
have the
thought,
moral responsibility.
what
It's-
do I do? So then I
Yeah.
had to sort of try and track down someone in Nissan who wanted the car back.
Hello, I've got to
And-
leave.
And it took ages to sort out. I mean, it took a long time because I went to the press office because that's the
Yeah,
people I would normally
first
deal with,
point of contact,
and spoke
fair
to a chap there, and he went, "Oh, right, yes, you're right. Yeah, that guy has left, and I don't know who's replaced him." So of course, then he had to find out. And it took a long time, and then finally someone rang me up and went, "Oh yeah, hi, could just want to arrange to collect your car?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, just sort it out." And then that took a while, but then there was a weird bit where they went, "Okay, we'll come and get it next Thursday." Then they rang me back and they went, "Oh, sorry, just wanted to check. What's the registration?" And I thought, they really
don't
I could
know.
have kept
You
this for
could
a
have-
lot.
yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah,
still
yeah.
have it.
One of our leaves is
Could have been a
missing.
real long
So to
term.
answer your question, the Leaf has gone. So I now have the Porsche that I talked about recently on the show,
Yeah.
and my Defender, and then we have our family car, Mercedes GLC.
No. And as a motorist,
Motoring?
you are
No, none of those
responsible-
are. Ooh, the Defender's a bit motoring, just
It is
because it's
a bit
old
motoring.
It
fashioned.
is,
Country
yeah,
motoring.
It is.
And in
it
a
is.
way, the Porsche's a. Because there's a sense that you might just go for a drive for
kind
the
of
sake
history,
of it.
heritage in there. Yeah.
I think that my Porsche is more motoring than your Porsche because, although yours is older, mine is more sort of wrapped up in the heritage of rear engine, ferry Porsche. Yours, the upstart, front engined, we don't like the sound of this. It's a bit less motoring because I feel it's less
boys.
old farty.
Boys.
It's
there's
old
an
fartiness
argument in
is
this.
inextricably linked to motoring.
I'm driving.
I will give you that yours is a little bit more old farting. Sorry, Gareth, continue.
I drive a 3-litre straight 6
Ooh, a straight
rear-wheel
6 is very motoring.
drive. Principally it's a 4 really, but it's a coupe, 4-seater, but it's a coupe really. It's pretty motoring. I would argue that my Saw is more motoring than your Porsche or your Land Rover.
It is quite motoring.
Most
yeah.
motoring.
It's pretty
But then
motoring.
again, you see, it's Japanese, and I feel like motoring enthusiasts are quite racist.
Motoring. Oh.
Yeah, there's a whole separate motoring culture in Japan.
Motoringo.
Motoringo.
Yes, maximum Japanese motoring.
Yeah.
But the point is that we are a
Maximum.
dying breed as motorists.
Yeah. So, sorry, to answer your question about how many cars I have 3 cars in our household, which is
3
one
cars.
more car than we need because there are only 2 people in the household who can drive.
Yeah.
The dog lost her licence for speeding.
Gets it back in 6 months, though.
In dog years. That's only 15 minutes. Isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
See, you've got to go through the whole MOT thing. Well, the Porsche, it's 10 years old, isn't
Porsche
it?
needs MOT, yeah.
Land Rover's a year away from its first MOT now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's not that long, is it?
Ooh, MOT.
Yeah. And
Flat
that's the
batteries?
thing. No, but I am completely paranoid about that.
Yeah,
Because
you mentioned this the other day. And
the flat battery is
I've
the
got a
most
solution,
casually irritating part of motoring, I think, of any kind.
it is, but you've just got to go with the solar panel top-up solution.
Yes, now,
This is what you have to
another
do.
mate of mine has got this and he swears by it. Mind you, he swears by it. It sounds like a name drop, but it's not because it's just Harry Metcalf who does those videos on YouTube. Lovely Harry, who founded Evo magazine and who is a friend of mine. And Harry has one of those solar trickle-chargy type things on the old-shaped Mercedes SL that he keeps down in the south of France where his boat lives.
Now, this is the thing.
Bless him, poor Harry.
Amount
He's
of
scratching
sun-
around for pennies.
Amount of sun is an important thing here because having tried to use a little bit of solar trickle charging to keep the battery topped up in the last couple of months, I've realised that there is quite an issue with British winter, both with hours of sun and then the fact that you're putting your solar panel underneath some glass, which is probably going to cut out some more of the wavelengths that are going to give you some useful power. You're probably going to get way less output from that solar panel than you're hoping to get. So you may need a bit more solar panel area than you might at first have thought. But it is the perfect solution. Yeah, using solar panels to keep your battery topped up.
You know the Soyuz spacecraft that has those 2 beautiful, elegant, folding out solar panel?
Yeah.
That's what you want on your car, isn't it? Something like that. That would make it look modern, wouldn't it? Proper extending solar wings, not just a panel, wings. I know it's tricky in London,
Yeah.
but it would solve the battery recharge problem, which I'm suffering from at the moment.
Well, this is the thing, because the cruel irony is that this sort of characteristically unsunny time of year is also when car batteries really get knackered by the cold weather, isn't it? Because the thing is, for years, even when I had a mere one car to my name,
Poor
boo-hoo, I was always having a flat battery because I was always messing around in other people's cars because I was having press cars for my job, and I wish I do sort of a bit less now.
Yeah, and then you don't drive your car for 10 days, you come back to it and...
Years ago I had a Ford Cat and it never worked. At the end, I think I sold it to a mate. He bought it for his girlfriend. I sold it to him for just almost no money whatsoever. And by the simple expedient of putting a fresh battery in it and cleaning it, he made it basically back into a brand new car, and I was really cross with myself because he then showed me what he'd done. He spent a weekend cleaning it up and tidying it. I was like, what have you done to my car?
You know why he did that?
To spite me?
He was a motorist.
Yeah, he did some good sort of motorist behaviour.
So he found some motorist in the Ford car, despite what we said earlier.
But that's the thing, it was the interior had gone mouldy as well because I hadn't used it. That's how little I'd used it. But then even do you remember I had that Jag XJR, that beautiful black Jag, which I loved, and I still sometimes have pangs about selling. But towards the end of the time that I owned that, and one of the reasons why I sold it was because it was sitting in the BBC car park with a flat battery because I hadn't used it for weeks. I used to annoy myself that I was like, just one day go and take it out for a bit of motoring. Because that was quite a motoring car.
It is. I was about to say exactly that.
Motoring,
supercharged
motoring.
I think I've got the motoring problem solution. I'm assuming that people listening to Gareth Jones on Speed are like us. They've probably got more than one car. They'll have something that they use for the family, but they'll also get something that they've probably owned for 10 or 20 years, or they've always wanted it. They've saved up for their passion car. Quite possible that many of you have two cars. And I reckon that if you are a motorist, it's got more than two cars. If you considered getting a third car, the solution would be an RAC rescue vehicle, wouldn't it? You know, one of those transits with a pair of those, what do you call those things that fold down that you can put underneath your front wheels at the back to hoik your car around, and it's got a bit of a battery charging thing on it, and you've probably got a box somewhere full of all sorts of spares. That's what you want.
Like a recovery truck.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, if you like cars, then you sort of have this dream, I'd love to have a fleet of cars. I'd love to, in your mythical barn.
You have your dream garage.
I always think in my head...
What, 5 or 10 cars?
Multiple garages out the back in the courtyard of a big old country house. You just think, yes, you'd open double wooden doors and one would have the, Ferrari 458 Speciale in it, and one, would have an old Maserati, and one would have a Citroen SM, and I'd have a 2CV actually next to that as well. I think you probably would, wouldn't you, Sam?
I probably would. I'd have a Light 15 as well.
Yeah, well,
I know you would.
The Citroen section.
Yeah.
And then, there's all manner of things you go, and of course, I was thinking, I'd have my Defender, but then I'd probably have an old Series 1 as well. I love those. And then an original Range Rover. I mean, honestly, this frigging courtyard is massive.
Yeah. Mini Cooper.
Mini Cooper, lovely, of course, yeah. All of these things that you'd have. And what you would actually have is an enormous collection of flat batteries. Unless you put them all on trickle, but then it becomes like a job in itself.
Can you daisy chain them?
Yeah. But if you're that rich, you would probably have to have a man who looked after them for you.
The motoring man.
A motoring man. You're head of motoring. Because otherwise, it's a full-time job. It's not just a full-time job keeping cars in a running condition, but then sorting out the insurance and the tax and the MOT and stuff like that.
Yeah, and once you've got to 10 or a dozen of them,
it's a lot of paperwork.
Insurance, MOT and all that stuff, you'd make it easier by sort of having them all come up at the same time, probably, so you don't forget. And so you're always doing them.
So getting your MOT synchronised is quite hard.
You'd have to go very early. You're
not allowed to go beyond a certain amount of early. It's like you'd have to sort of over time. It'd be like glacial shift. You sort of by the year 2034, all of my MOTs will be within June.
Yes, every year.
Oh God, no! But I've gone and bought a new car. I've just gone and bought a 1970 and 911T, and that's not MOT till December. Damn it!
I just had this odd thought that whilst on the one hand, because we're talking about the motorist being a bit of a dying breed, particularly as legislation goes a certain way and as autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles become more of a thing, the culture of the rugged individual motorist going out for an exciting drive in their slightly difficult to keep on top of and maintain sturdy iron steed. This is going to be on the decline, and it might almost prompt an increase in the number of people, the number of households that maybe have two vehicles, because they've got one vehicle that actually fits in with the contemporary lifestyle, the autonomous vehicle that is zero emissions, and so you're not going to have to pay a toll every time you go into low emission zones or into the London congestion charging zone or whatever, and is cheaper to insure. But then, because they maybe still want to have to feel a bit of the thrill of being in control of something from time to time, they're going to want to have the older, impractical motor car for,
Yeah, well, it's the hobby
for
car, isn't it?
enjoyment.
What's happening to the car is analogous with what happened to the horse. It was once a way in which everyone had to get around. But a lot of people hated riding a horse and hated owning a horse, probably. And then the car came along and it sort of solved the problem. And then the horse riding just became a hobby for those who wanted to do it, which is how it is today. You know, the horse is not a practical means of transport, but it is a way that posh girls like to get their kicks at weekends. So,
and then we
There you
bought vehicles to tow the horses around. So we'll have in the future electric EVs to tow our XJS around.
absolutely, I think that's how the way to go. But what's interesting
I
as well
guarantee you that right now there is somebody who is trailering their internal combustion engine car to a track day with an electric vehicle up front.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's your hobby car. You don't actually put that many miles on it, and it ceases to become an issue about a petrol engine polluting and things like that, because actually they'll be used so infrequently and for so few miles.
Yeah.
They are just a hobbyist thing. In the way that as London was knee deep in horse poo at one point, and it was a great concern. You can look up in archives these letters to the Times of, "Sir, when is something going to be done about the foul stench in Westminster?" And the problem was sort of solved.
Absolutely.
And now horse poo is a relatively minor inconvenience.
Relatively, in the grand scheme of things.
But this is the thing where ownership of cars is going to die out, because a lot of people, even saying it's a pain trying to keep on top of MOTs and all the rest of it if you have a few cars. But even if you have one car, just keeping on top of the paperwork, for a lot of people, it's a pain. A friend of mine got rid of his car years ago. He lives in town and he just does zip car. He swears by it. He doesn't need a car very often.
Yeah.
Living in Hackney, I have to pay £260-something to park my car in this area somewhere near the front of my house. No guaranteed spot with that as well. We are being legislated against. I can't remember the last time I paid the congestion charge, because I wouldn't dream of driving my car into the congestion charging zone these days. They don't want me there, so okay, I'm reading the clues.
You say legislated against. I'm not sure.
Priced against them.
I'm not sure that I'd think of residents parking and charging residents parking as being legislating against motorists. It's a pretty sensible way of managing your very limited street space in a very crowded city.
Well, yes,
By
and no,
legislating
because
against cars.
But what is the term amongst the marginal utility? Is that right? Basically, what is the point at which the cost would get so great that somebody would get rid of their car? If you're paying 260 quid a year, it's a lot of money, but it's a drop in the ocean compared to the general cost of buying and running a car. So it's probably a cost that you will resentfully suck up. So I don't think it's not a tipping point for people. But what it is definitely a factor. And again, it goes back to this thing of people not wanting or needing to own a car. They'll just use Uber or some autonomous service or Zipcar to get into a car they drive themselves, and it's just another thing where they go, oh brilliant, I don't have to pay or worry about parking my car outside.
And for a lot of young people, insurance is probably the cost that is pushing them out of it. Because
forgive me if I've said this on the programme before, but once upon a time the car used to represent liberty. Finn's disagreeing. He said no. Cars used to represent liberty, but now a car represents responsibility. You have to fork out to park it outside. You can't go in certain places in it. There are speed limits. You drive out there, you're into a traffic. It's the opposite of freedom. For young people, so you talk about young people not being drivers, for them their liberty is the app. They open up the app on the phone, I want to go somewhere, and a car turns up and takes them there. That's all we need. We enjoy cars because we enjoy liberty. Young people get their liberty from a different place altogether, don't they? Things have already significantly changed. Even my son, Tycho, who's been brought up in a house full of cars. Car culture, not interested in learning to drive. He's 18 in August.
Yeah,
and
well,
he's not untypical.
If you're getting an Uber somewhere, you say that point about freedom is a very good one, because if you're getting an Uber everywhere or using some other ride-sharing system, whatever, you've then got the freedom, you can have a drink, you don't have to worry about where you've parked your car or if it's in a safe spot overnight or whether you're going to get a ticket.
Responsibility.
But it's weird, isn't it? Because if you are into motoring, and I was thinking about this evening, because I was going to get an Uber over here and I thought, I can have a drink. But then I just thought, the thought of sitting in the back of a car while someone else drove just suddenly filled me with dread, and I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to drive myself. I had a sudden moment of control freakery. I would much rather drive my Land Rover Defender through the back streets of London. It's not even like as if I was going across the Scottish borders in a McLaren P1. It's a fairly functional journey in my funny, bouncy, old-fashioned car, but I'd rather do that than sit in the back of a Prius. And I love drinking as well, so you imagine...
That shows you how much you like driving.
I've just had an absolute brilliant revelation. It's a sort of a semi-Uber model. So what happens is you call the vehicle to bring you here. It's an autonomous vehicle, but you can pilot it yourself if you want. And you can configure it so it feels like a Lotus Elise or something, and then have a big smashing drink, call the same car back, and this time say, drive me home. There you go. I've solved all the world's
It was a
problems.
sort of analogue version of that with
Isn't that
Scooter
how-
Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, my mate Bobby used to be a scooter man who
Really?
did that. Yeah. He
Is
would
that still going?
I
Or is
don't
it-
know if
Uber
it
killed
is.
that? I don't
It's
know.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe we should bring that back.
Autonomo Systems present Envoy. The multi-function get you there and get you home again transport solution. You drive the car configured in full sports car mode to a bar or restaurant and enjoy an evening out. And if you like, even a couple of drinks. Then when you're ready to leave, you simply use your app to engage dad mode. And your car returns
Your car is waiting outside.
to pick you up, now configured as a sensible estate, which will take you home and automatically warn you not to let your mum smell your breath.
Have you been drinking?
No, Mum. Autonomo Systems, driving the future for you.
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
I've lived in Stoke Newington in Hackney in North London since 1988. And I remember when I first moved into Stokey, at the end of our road, we had Phil Cornwell, who was my mate from Get Fresh. We had Emma Freud
Really?
and Sinead O'Connor.
No.
Yeah, at the end of our road.
Sinead O'Connor
Ironically,
used to live up
is
here.
this where Phil Cornwell got the idea for Stella Street from? This weird, sort
actually-
of famous ghetto.
I think you're probably right. You know.
Sinead O'Connor?
Yeah.
Wow.
All on Clissold Crescent it was called, and still is called that. But yeah, there are lots of people around here. But as this is a car programme, I thought we'd do some sort of celeb spotting. But let's do celebs in cars. I'll go first.
This is celebrities we've seen in cars. Right?
Yes.
You have to have seen this person in a vehicle.
Yes.
Okay.
Edward Tudorpole, who was
Yeah.
in the Sex Pistols for a while and is a well-known actor and was in Tenpole Tudor.
Swords of a Thousand Men? Was that that
Correct.
song? Is that
Correct.
our only-
Yeah. Utter gentleman.
A little bit before my time. Yeah.
Used to drive around in a nice big old Bentley, like the Queen-shaped Bentley, you know?
Really?
Yeah, a really old one, yeah. Really, really old. Lives just up on... I shan't say the name of his road because he's still there. So that's
look for the Bentley
my
outside.
first one. The other one was Stuart Lee, who I drove into his Mini accidentally.
Oh, I was going to
once
try and
up the
guess
road.
what Stuart Lee had. Stuart Lee had a Mini, what, an old-shaped Mini?
Yeah, green Cooper. Yeah, old shape, proper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you'd asked me to guess what car Stuart Lee... Was this recently?
No, this was 98, 99,
Oh,
I would
okay.
say. This
So
was,
it's still
yeah.
sort of current, kind of quite... interesting.
I can see there being a Stuart
Yeah,
Lee.
maybe.
Yeah, you know, it's a good
you
little
crashed into
mini...
him?
Well, I was forced into a situation by a man driving a Scorpio at utter speed up the road. I jinked out of the way and just clipped Stuart Lee's wing mirror, which I thought I'd knocked off, and actually had been knocked off before and was stuck back there. So I went round, wrote a note, took him a bottle of wine.
Oh, he
really
wasn't
sorry.
in the car at the
No,
time?
it was just parked on the corner.
But did you know it was Stuart Lee's
Ding,
Mini?
ding.
Yes,
disqualified.
yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, because I put a
Because
note
you live
in
on
the-
Stella Street, of course.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just went, oh, no,
I put a note
Stuart
in the-
Lee at number 14. Yeah.
I put a note in the window apologising, and he got in touch with me, and so I went round there with a bottle of wine.
My mate Rowley, who is now the executive producer and creative lead in all manner of important things for the Fast and Furious live show, which has just launched and just started at the O2, he derailed Stuart Lee's stand-up comedy comeback.
How?
Because this is a really weird story. Rowley used to work on Crime Watch as a researcher.
This could go all kinds
They
of
had a
ways.
Be
Crime
careful.
Watch night out to a comedy club. I know, this is so strange. A comedy club in Shepherd's Bush in London. And there had various acts on, and including an incredibly tall Scandinavian, I think he was, man, called Gigantor, who was this really weird comedian who did his bit. He was very funny. He went off, and then the compare came back on. I went, now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a bit of a treat for you. I don't know if any of you remember. Stuart Lee, he's been away from the comedy circuit for a while. Tonight, he's back. We're so pleased. He's come back. He's got got some new material he wants to try out, and we're so honoured to have him here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stuart Lee. He came on stage, and he came on. And of course, he's not really a gag merchant. He's a long,
ideas,
long thought.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes quite a long time between sort of over trigger laugh type stuff.
Yeah.
And so he did this bit. This was in the early 2000s, I guess, and he went, "Yeah, it's terrible about 9/11." Or the 9th of November, as I call it. You know, the gag being the Americans get the thing the wrong way. It's not a brilliant joke, but he laboured on it in that very dry way that he does. And my mate Rowley had a couple of drinks at this point, sitting down the front, and went, "That's not funny." And Stuart Lee went, "Yes, it is." And Rowley went, "No, it's not. It's not funny at all." And they started having this sort of low-energy argument about it. And then Stuart Lee carried on, because Rowley, that's probably was quite young, and didn't remember Stuart Lee from being on the telly in the 90s, so he just had no respect for him whatsoever, and he heckled him again, and Stuart Lee's like, "Have you finished?" And Rowley's like, "No, you're rubbish, get off." And Stuart Lee carries on, says something else that Rowley didn't find amusing, and then Rowley went, "Bring back Gigantor!" And Stuart Lee went, "I can't. He's gone." And Rowley looked across. There's a doorway at the side of the room, and the room's dark, but the doorway is illuminated. And there's this huge Scandinavian man standing in the doorway. And Rowley went, "No, he's not. He's over there." At which point, Gigantor ran off, and Stuart Lee just went, "Okay, thanks very much," and walked off the stage.
Oh no, he didn't actually.
Well, that's the thing. So Rowley, bless him, is one of the sweetest blokes that I know. He's a very, very good-hearted guy, but he had a couple of drinks and he was just full of bluster. He found out later from someone he knew who knew Stuart Lee's wife that apparently this comeback, being heckled, just knocked his confidence, and he decided he didn't want to come back to stand up, and it took him ages to rebuild it.
By drunken
all
idiots
because of my mate Rowley just getting a bit drunk and asking for Gigantor to come back. So Rowley was mortified about this. Anyway, it's fine. Stuart Lee's back. It's okay.
I wonder what car Gigantor drove. It'd have to be a
something
convertible, wouldn't it?
Sorry, you've gone a bit off topic.
That's okay.
Probably one of those Bentleys with a big roof, like the Queen drove.
Perfect, bit of headroom. Or a Golf Plus. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Just
or a
God's
Suzuki
way.
Wagon R.
There you go. Yeah, it's very
budget.
tall. Zog, come on. Who have you seen in cars?
Okay, first of all, Peter Bowles, him
Yes.
out of To the Manor Born.
And yes, smoothest actor this side of Nigel Havers.
Very super smooth actor.
Was he in
was
Austin
in the
Healey?
back of...
Right, well,
back
hang on. No, I don't want to hear the car.
No.
Right, what year was this?
Okay, this would have been...
Are we profiling?
90s. or 80s?
Yeah, it was about, I think it was probably 95.
Okay.
95.
But he was in the back.
96. Yeah, he was at the back. He was being driven.
It was a Mercedes.
He was being driven. I can't remember exactly what it was, except it was a large... It could have been an old Bentley or an old Rolls.
Okay.
It was big enough that sort of quite a decent-sized back window that he could look out of.
Right.
See, I would have guessed
remember
Jag
looking at
XJ. And that it's his
It's
car.
very him, isn't it?
Yeah, because he's got a moustache.
I was about to say.
And he's very suave, but you have a feeling that he might sort of steal your silver teaspoons while you weren't looking.
I think-
if he's a bit down on his luck.
I'm pretty
and
sure.
he'd give them back to you if he then won on the horses or something. You know, he's
Or
a,
if
he's
you
a
caught
very
him,
jagged bloke.
yeah,
Yes.
he'd apologise.
So sorry. I'm
so
so sorry.
yes,
I was just looking at them.
I think it was a pre-requirement throughout the 80s that if you went into a Jaguar dealership, before they sold you a car, they would say, "Excuse me, sir, do you have a moustache normally?" I think they required motorists.
They're quite motoring.
I tell you what I've seen in a car on the road, and you did as well, Gareth, Derek Bell.
Yeah, that was
Derek
a
Bell,
beautiful moment.
At the wheel on his way to Le Mans.
In a Bentley, driving a Bentley.
Oh, really?
He pulled up alongside him, actually, as we approached Circuit de 24 Heures, whatever it's called. I've forgotten what it's called now.
Circuit
Circuit de la Sarthe. And yeah, he pulled up alongside us, and we stuck a camera out the window and did an interview with him. It's actually on the internet somewhere, on my website, I think. We've got that clip
Yeah, it was
for
from
our
the
Le Mans film.
ended up in the ITV Le Mans film, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
He was lovely. He was very friendly. He was
Brilliant.
very happy to be interviewed like that. I can't think of another thing.
Okay, we'll come back, Richard.
Well, the one that sticks in my mind, and I was reminded of it a couple of weeks ago, there was a documentary about Michael Palin on TV. And they showed archive interviews with Terry Jones, because bless him, he's not very well, is he? And I think he's got quite severe dementia now.
Yeah.
But I remember probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was driving through North London, and there was a car in front of me that suddenly slowed down in that way where you think, well, there's no indication. You go, now here's somebody who's not a brilliant motorist, because they're not really aware of their surroundings, but something's going on here. And then suddenly they started doing a 3-point turn, and they made a complete hash of the 3-point turn. And as they completed about the sort of 7th or 8th point of it and kind of managed to just about get, I looked, and furiously sort of passing the wheel through his hands in a sort of panicky way was Terry Jones.
Bless him.
And he's going, well, now, Terry Jones, yeah, you probably wouldn't peg him as a good driver.
I was going to say, of all the Pythons, I reckon he's the one who I would imagine to be probably the least competent driver.
So who's the most competent driver?
Yeah,
then?
you're right, definitely the least competent driver.
Eric Idle.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta be.
What would Idle drive? Something American, because he's lived in California a long time, hasn't
that's
it?
true.
I think
yeah.
he'd drive
What would it
when
be?
he drive an old British car.
He might drive a Jag
He'd drive an
XJ6.
I think if you lived in California in the 80s, have an XJS convertible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Eric Idle, and I might be confusing some of his characters on Monty Python, like the nudge nudge bloke in the bar, would wear a shirt, open neck shirt, but with a cravat.
Yes. Very
Quite,
motoring.
quite sort of dandyish or dapper, but yeah, a Jaguar convertible.
Yeah.
But in this country, maybe he'd see that as a bit on the nose, and he'd have something else. I think when he got a bit of money, he might have got an original shape 3 Series. An E21, if you will.
Okay. Michael Palin, on the other hand.
Because he likes the rear-wheel drive, you see, because he is a bit of a tasty helmsman, I think.
We think.
He's quite thin, isn't he? He's got a sort of racing driver's physique.
He is thin, yes.
Quite thin.
For a moment, I saw him maybe in a Citroen DS. That could work.
That would be
Yeah,
very
so
elegant.
Oxbridge educated, sort of quite erudite. Yes.
Michael Palin would always get public transport. He'd get a train or probably
Yeah.
hitch a ride on a steamer somewhere, wouldn't he?
He can drive, and he's perfectly competent behind the wheel, I would like to
But would
believe.
rather not.
But he just doesn't bother.
Second-hand Volvo.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
you'd have a second-hand Volvo 240.
On the money, Zog, yes.
Bit tatty in the
Oh,
back.
of course, yeah, because, Michael,
put
should
a
we
bit
get a
of
new
furniture in the
car?
back.
No, I don't think there's any need. There's lots of
Stay
ways.
with the Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's just, well, you know, I don't get bothered.
How about Cleese then?
I'm not sure that
Something
Cleese is a particularly good driver, but
It's probably something that's just slightly ill-advised. I can just see
He's
that
very tall.
it would be a car that's just maybe a little bit more than he needs somehow. It's just
Yeah.
not quite right. He's never quite happy with it.
Right! That's it!
because he's always been married to American women or Canadian women. He's got some kind of American SUV, but in the UK. Because he liked it because it's roomy.
Yeah.
And he'd driven
An
them in the
Explorer.
US. An Explorer or something.
With
or-
Firestone tyres.
Well, let's
Yeah.
hope not. But then it's
It
left-hand
wouldn't be
drive,
an
and it's a
Escalade.
permanent
It would be a-
inconvenience to him. And he's like, and
Right, I'll
yes.
block here.
It gives us something to complain about.
Oh, so what I haven't told you is, though, the car that Terry Jones was making a mess
Oh, yes.
of manoeuvring in was a Subaru Legacy Estate.
Oh, a bit more sophisticated
Nice.
than you
Well,
might
the thing is,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it,
it's more of a-
actually
bit
that
more of a
checks
drive.
out only in as much as Terry Jones, again, Oxbridge educated, very sort of stout middle class. I think he was sort of almost the most establishment middle class of all of the Pythons in his own way, because he'd always depict sort of wittery old women.
Yes.
And he'd always basing it on 1,000 people's mothers that he's sort of aware of. Because he would play sort of fishwife kind of terraced house ones, but he was more comfortable with a sort of twin set and pearls
Yes.
middle-aged lady,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yes,
Pretending
yeah,
to be your
I can
nose.
see that now.
I just think,
Right.
and so just something that's sort of quite classical and tasteful, and a Subaru Legacy fits in anywhere
it's a surprise.
without making a fuss.
Yeah,
He was
I guess
Welsh.
okay.
He should have driven a Gilbert. He was born in Colwyn Bay.
Yeah, but that would require him to really be interested in cars.
Yeah,
I
and
just
he's
don't think
not.
He is,
Yeah.
but he
He's
sort of he was
diametrically
aware enough that
opposed.
maybe he thought about the Volvo estate because that would work. You know, I think he lived in Hampstead, and it's all fits in. But then it's well, Michael's got one of those. I don't want to look like I'm copying Michael because they were
So
writing partners, weren't they? So
yeah, so he gets me a little bit different.
yeah, the Subaru is the thinking man's Volvo estate.
Yeah.
1999, and I'm driving down Gower Street, London's West End,
Yeah.
in my little red Suzuki Cappuccino that I just bought in Japan and imported to the UK, with Violet alongside me. And as we're going down, in my mirror I saw behind, oh, there's another Cappuccino. It's a red one like mine, so I adjusted my speed. And the Cappuccino pulls up alongside on the left hand side. We wind down the windows, and driving that Cappuccino, Terry Gilliam.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Python
Brilliant.
Terry Gilliam, the same colour as mine. And he said something about, well, what's with the turbo sign? Because it had turbo written on the back in gold lettering, which was just being put on. And it had a huge rear spoiler on the back. And we drove down together grinning. You know, he's got that huge grin. I had the same huge grin. We were like a display team. I didn't dare sing the Python theme. But I had met him and interviewed him a long time ago previously, but I don't think he...
See, I wouldn't have
fantastic.
guessed Suzuki Cappuccino
No.
for Terry Gilliam, but
Morris
it does
Minor.
check out because quirky.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Quirky,
Unexpected.
imaginative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a giant rose appeared out of it, and then a foot or something like that.
Yeah.
That's probably my second greatest claim to fame in terms of car people. I did
Now-
see the Queen once and one of the Prime Ministers.
This is not my story, but I'm going to steal it. In fact, it's TV's Jeremy Clarkson's story. That Jeremy was sitting in traffic somewhere in West London on one of those sort of two-lane roads, and it was really gridlocked. They weren't going anywhere, but they were sort of creeping along. And Jeremy became aware of a man in an early 80s Mercedes saloon, so what became the E-Class, a W123.
I was about to say
if
that,
you like.
yes.
This was probably like 10 years ago, so it was an old car then. And there's a man in it who's suddenly trying to attract his attention, and Jeremy's a bit like,
I don't want to interact
Yeah.
with a random member of the public at this point.
Jeremy sort of glances across, and this bloke looks quite intimidating. He's like, and then the traffic's all completely stopped. This guy gets out of his car and comes over to Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy's thinking, oh my God, this bloke looks, and he's got like all these gold teeth. And he's going, hey, Jeremy, all right? And Jeremy sort of puts his window down and goes, hey, how you doing, mate? It's Goldie. And it was Goldie. The most amazing part of that story is that Jeremy sort of dimly worked out who Goldie was. It's like, he's not known for his love of drum and bass, but...
But he managed to figure it out. Oh, well done.
yeah, so Goldie has or had at some point an old Merc saloon.
Nice.
Who'd have thunk it?
This doesn't quite count as spotting somebody in a car, but I once got a lift back from a party in a car driven by Corinne Drury from Swing Out Sister.
Corinne.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, really, I know her.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
I knew her a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
lovely
drummer in
girl.
the band and Nigel were old pals. For
Yeah, well,
good
and the
grief.
drummer was in the back of the car with me
Yeah.
because they believe they are partners.
Bobby, who lived in the same place as me for 8 years, used to be their tour manager.
Really?
Yeah. My smaller side, off topic, Swing Out Sister gig in the Philippines. Bobby's collecting the money for the band, and halfway through, the guy counts out something like $15,000, puts it in a suitcase, reaches down, pulls out a gun and said, "This is my money." And Bobby says, "Yeah, it is, yeah." Took the band and left.
Certainly is, sir.
That was it. Swing Out Sister, it's very 80s. That's
Very
good.
80s.
That's pretty good.
I've thought of another, on an 80s musician tip. I've mentioned this before. Fergal Sharkey lives near me.
So he does.
Yeah, so he does. And I've seen him around. Not for a while, actually, but I saw him in the car park of my local Waitrose. And I was getting out of my car and I saw him walking back into the car park. And I was like, I wonder what Fergal Sharkey drives.
Yeah. What former Undertone and Lawman.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I was desperately trying to think of puns based around...
It would be a DeLorean, wouldn't
You
it?
little...
It would be a Sharky
Thema.
nose.
No. Yes, a shark.
Shark nose, yes.
The answer is not very exciting.
156.
There's an Audi A6.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in his corporate working for A&M Records
Well, it
as
was
an
quite an
A&R
old
guy.
one as well.
Right,
Yeah, so it wasn't the current shape, it was the old shape at the time. Yeah, and he had a big CB sort of style aerial on the boot.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
But I then subsequently heard somewhere that he was really into CB radio or ham radio, whatever. Yeah.
How 70s.
Yeah, I know.
CV.
That somehow doesn't compute. I can't really see Fergal Sharkey as a 10-4 smoky
It's
bandit.
weird, isn't it?
I think he just did it for the teenage kicks, didn't he?
Yeah, I've spent most of the rest of that afternoon. I think I put it on Twitter that I'd seen Fergal Sharkey in his car, and then trying to think of good, a good heart these days, a good Hal for Romeo. No, it doesn't work.
I used to see Patsy Palmer from EastEnders.
Ricky!
Exactly. Driving her Ford Fiesta at Highbury Corner on the way up
Really?
to where they shoot EastEnders. I regularly saw her several times. Always smiley and nice. But that's not my massive claim to fame in terms of famous people in London, because I'm going to finish with this one, which I'm enormously proud of, this story. I'm trying to work out when this was. Let me think. I was in my Volkswagen Jetta, which meant it must have been 1986, 1987. And I'm driving along High Holborn, as non-Londoners say, High Holborn, up back towards Islington, back up to North East London where I lived. And in the car with me was my mate Bobby, who used to be Swing Out Sisters tour manager, and his girlfriend at the time, Louise. And alongside us pulls up, now I can't remember if it was a De Chauveau or a Diane, but I'm going to say De Chauveau. It may have been a Citroën Diane. And there was a person driving and someone sitting in the back. And the person in the back opened up the window and shouted to us, "Give us all your drugs!" It was Peter Cook, as in Peter Cook and Dudley
fantastic.
Moore. And
you gave him all your drugs.
well,
Okay, I probably shouldn't ask. If there were any drugs in either car. I just won't ask.
yeah, if we'd have had any drugs in our car, we would have given them to him. We did. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. That was Richard.
Goodbye.
That was Zog.
Goodbye.
I was Gareth, and I expect to do a 5 stretch for this. See ya.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!